The final segment in this chapter 29, we're going to talk about the second farm depression, which some of you may remember. It happened in the 80s. And we're going to talk about how farmers could take care of themselves. Okay, let's talk about the second farm depression. First of all, if we look at the 80s, we had several factors going on. First factor is we had skyrocketing fuel costs. This is when OPEC put the squeeze on. You saw petroleum supply go way down, therefore gas prices skyrocketed. Much higher percentage of increase than what we've seen lately. Number two, fertilizer costs went up. I didn't know this, but fertilizer is petroleum based. Because petroleum went up, fertilizer costs go up. These are two huge costs for farmers. Third is the interest rate skyrocketed. At that time, you were looking at home mortgages in 18 to 20%. Huge skyrocketing. And if you're looking at an industry that's heavily debt-driven, where you borrow in the spring, pay back in the fall, this cuts into your profit quite a bit. So all three of those are going on. Also, when interest rates raise, land value plummets, which is the top asset for a farmer. So all their costs are increasing, their assets are going down. And then the fifth one was a decline in exports. Two things that happened that caused this. Number one was we had an embargo in place. An embargo went into place on Russia for invading Afghanistan. They were our number one purchaser of agricultural products. We put an embargo on them, so suddenly the demand shifts back. And two, we had a very strong dollar. Have you ever heard that term, strong and weak dollar? What it means is the amount that you can trade your money for other money. Okay? If $1, let's say $1 is equal to 100 pesos. The next day, your $1 is equal to 200 pesos. And this is what we saw at that time. I made these numbers up, but we saw this increase in value. Well, this is great if you want to go travel abroad or if you want to buy their goods, because your money is worth so much more. The problem is for a farmer who wants to export their goods, it now costs twice as much for them to buy that dollar's worth of goods. So a strong dollar is bad for exports. So again, declining exports. So you saw all these cost factors rising, assets going down, and then demand go away. So we saw lots of farmers in trouble in the 1980s. You saw concerts where they brought big bands together. You saw Willie Nelson, Led Zeppelin, all these groups come together for Farm Aid. All this was happening. And the government again ran in to bail them out. But at the end of all this, a couple of things you need to know. Number one, farmers already have two ways to protect themselves from all these fluctuations. The first is farm insurance. You can buy crop insurance. You can buy insurance on almost anything. But you can insure your crop against failure. By doing so, you'll guarantee your income. The problem, you have to pay for it. So farmers don't want to buy that when the government's going to come in and take care of it anyway. Second technique they could use to protect themselves is called futures. They could sell their um, they could sell their products on a futures market, meaning that I might come in and tell you, the farmer, say, I will give you $80,000 for your crops before you even plant them. I'm willing to take that risk. The idea that what I've got as an idea is my hope is that your crop does well and every other farmer's that grows a crop like yours, they all fail. Then I make out. The downside is I've already bought your crop. If it fails, I've already paid you, but you've got your money. You're set. But the reason the farmer doesn't want to do that is because in order for me to take the risk, I'm going to want it at a premium. I will pay you $80,000 for your $100,000 crop. I'm going to want a big return for taking on that risk. And that takes away from the profitability of the farmer. What the government has created is known as a moral hazard. It is an incentive not to be economical, to make decisions based on bad incentives. I'll give you a local example. This spring, this event will happen in Marietta. Can anybody guess what it will be? They will flood. Now, how do I know that? Because they flood almost every year. Why do they flood? Because they refuse to build a flood wall. Why does that happen? It happens because they refuse to build that flood wall because it's unattractive, they say. The reality is they refuse to do it because each and every year that it happens, the government comes in and bails them out. We have provided them with an incentive to not act economically. That is a moral hazard. And that's what we've done to our agricultural industry as well. With all these incentive programs we have out there, when they have the option to protect themselves. All right. Out of these 3 chapters, terminology, again, very important. First third of the test, I would definitely want to know all the characteristics of the 4 market structures. Then concentrate on those last 2 chapters, and you should be fine. Remember, characteristics, EPA, or environmental protection, and then the farming industry. If you have any questions, feel free to send them. Thank you.